Perfect. STAKK Nation, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to a video. This one is a little bit deep, but it's also a reality. It also gives me hope because it makes me realize that the world is waking up. The two videos we're going to be looking at in this one, one is from Africa's perspective and one is from Europe's perspective. And it's interesting because it is something that we had spoken about previously on the show. And it almost seems like you can almost predict how this is going to unfold.
It's slowly unfolding already.
It is unfolding. So, with no further ado, I'm going to hit share screen here and I'm hoping it comes up on the right one. Yes, it did. And let's jump right into this thing. I'm going to play all of it through. Then we'll talk about it. So here we go.
A country that has toppled so many governments in Africa, that has led so many coups in Africa and other parts of the world, a country that has killed so many of our leaders in Africa and other parts of the world, the killers of Patrice Lumumba, those who toppled Kwame Nkrumah, those who killed Nasser, those who killed Muammar Gaddafi, today are coming to teach us about democracy. A country that has been built on brutal force, on enslavement of other human beings, on the humiliation of Africans, the exploitation of Africans, the plunder of Africa, today is coming to teach us about democracy. If you have no respect for the dignity of others, if you have no respect for the sovereignty of other countries, you cannot claim to be a champion of democracy.
All right. Double up. Thoughts on that one?
Man, you're gonna have to start with 007 first.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Man, this thing is fire, man. As you know, I'm pro-America. I'm also pro-Africa. Right?
Yep.
And my man there made a good mention about democracy. It was democracy that we took to Iraq, that we used to blow up Iraq. If you guys remember that, right? Democracy in America right now is actually weak. We have the SEC, the CFTC, the FTC, the feds, just trailing us left and right. Our governments are corrupt.
Yeah.
So this democracy in America right now does not even exist. Don't even think that it does.
Yeah.
Your freedoms are slowly being removed from you. And we've used that same way that we treat our fellow Americans, and we've gone around the world and done these terrible policies, terrible coups, and killed a lot of leaders around the world, and a lot in Africa for sure. For what reason? For the domination of the US dollar, for the ability to steal your resources, take your resources without you being able to see anything back. I think that's one of the reasons why we do this show, is that America's democracy can really come back with a tool like Bitcoin that allows us to transparently see what the governments are doing and allow us to transparently spend our money and know where those monies are going. Not only that, it could also fix governance. We've done several videos on how it could do that.
Yeah.
And it now enable other countries to exchange value with America without that competitive nature of having to kill somebody or take over somebody to take their resources. You can exchange freely and still be beneficiary, 50-50 win in that situation. So I just think that instead of us keep going in this route of terrible policymakers, which now has the chickens coming home to roost, we have an opportunity to change that. And I think Bitcoin is the starting step for that.
Absolutely. I think, national sovereignty is something that a lot of people do not think about. National sovereignty means that other nations have the right, the ability to be able to engage in trade and so on and so forth with anyone that they wish to at any point in time across the globe. This is the same for us on an individual level, right? We can exchange value, engage in business with anyone that we wish to without someone else trying to censor our transaction or block us from trying to achieve the things that we're trying to achieve. I think that we have seen a clear violation in this. Very much like Double was saying there, democracy in America is a dream. It's not happening, that's for sure. The simple fact that these people can, or banks, are allowed to restrict us from using our money as we see fit to buy crypto, it's already a problem. I think that's a clear violation. And as small as that incident might be, or as minute as that detail might be, I think that is the same mindset that is applied when you go outside of your country to go oppress other people and restrict their ability to exchange values with others across the globe. We know, because we know that the Western world is currently still holding African nations' reserves and so on and so forth, restricting their trade with other nations and so on and so forth. And it is well within your right to stand up and push back against things that are not fair, right? And so we're seeing the same thing happen with Germany, Europe as well, right? Where very much like what was explained in that first video there, we see that some U.S. leadership has they still proceed to carry out the same sort of activities. However, this time is really to the detriment of someone that they will consider an ally.
Yep.
I said in a previous video that you cannot consider someone your friend while doing things that put them in an uncomfortable position. It's just not realistic, right? And so the next video we're also going to watch here is also, you see Germany and their take on this perspective. Now, there is one other thing I want to point out, regardless of all of this. There is the flip side of this that we have to look at, because a lot of times when we look at these videos, right, America looks like the obvious bad person here. And I think this is also one of the reasons why you say you're pro-America and you're pro-Africa.
Yep.
I always ask myself sometimes, right, what would it look like if China was the one that was a global leader like America was for this long period of time? How would the world look like, given that we see the mindset that the Chinese operate with? The Chinese government, not the Chinese people.
Absolute power, corrupt, absolutely. That's the answer for that.
Well, but I don't think with them it's about even corruption. This is their nature of operation.
Yeah, like
it's dictatorship. It is not corrupt for them. It's just power. You are less, right?
Absolute power.
Yeah.
When you have absolute power,
yeah,
authoritarian, you just do anything just for your own personal gain.
Exactly.
So the word corrupt in that does not mean that you have to be indirectly taking something from somebody in the wrong way. It could also mean that you just fully just do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. So like the Chinese people are great people, but the Chinese government is quite interesting the way they lead their people.
Yeah.
So if China was the one doing what America is doing right now, China will be doing the same thing, maybe just indirectly, maybe a little bit more cunningly, which America tries to do, but eventually comes to the open eventually, which you'll see what's going on in Europe right now.
If you take the same platform, the same blueprint that China is running right now, and you put it where America was, right?
It's not gonna work.
Slavery is an absolutely catastrophic thing for sure, but I think that if it was China, or China leadership, it seems to me that the difference might be that we might still be undergoing slavery today.
We are already undergoing slavery.
No,
today.
I'm talking about full out, all out. Listen, the slavery that we see today is technical.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm talking about it is clean and clear. You have to understand. From what I understand, in some of these Asian countries, they're still like, if you're a black person, you show up as a black person, you're still like, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? So, I will say this, man. if at any point in time, if Russia, China, or any of these other countries were the dominant force, right? I don't think that, or even if it was an African nation that was a dominant force, I don't think that they can claim that they would have done a better job.
None of them can claim that it would do a better job.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Africa is the way it is now, partially because of the African leaders.
Yes, the African leaders participated in this too, right? So in some ways, I think the demonization of America, people need to chill with that as well too. You know what I'm saying? Because I cannot be.
Which is why I'm
standing
saying
over
that
here.
let's take the human factor out. Let the human do the governance,
Yeah.
which they're still terrible at.
Yeah.
And because everything at the end of the day, like the book of Ecclesiastes says, is money. It's all about how do you and I exchange value. It's all about how do I store value, even at the country level. Right. That is how America is able to maintain its global dominance.
Yeah.
It's storing all its energy and grabbing everybody's energy to themselves.
Right.
And we can do that through Bitcoin, where Americans can still be the top nation without necessarily destroying violently other people's resources.
It is time to compete again. It's just that this time the competition is different.
Yeah.
And America just needs to step up to the plate.
Compete on a level playing ground.
Exactly. You know? The new standard, which is where we are today. Let's check out the next video here.
Frau Präsidentin, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, der heutige Tag ist Anlass genug, den Befreiern Deutschlands.
This one is closed caption. I hope you can read.
We copied it right there.
Yeah, let me remove ourselves from the screen real quick.
It's closed caption, and hopefully you understand German. If you understand German, please read.
Yeah.
Der heutige Tag ist Anlass genug, den Befreiern Deutschlands zu danken. Die Hauptlast im Kampf gegen den deutschen Faschismus trug die Sowjetunion, aber ohne die gemeinsame Anstrengung der USA, Großbritanniens und Frankreichs hätte dieser so wichtige Sieg über die Barbarei nicht errungen werden können. 400.000 US-Soldaten haben im Zweiten Weltkrieg ihr Leben im Kampf gegen den japanischen Militarismus und den deutschen Faschismus verloren. Ihnen gilt unser Angedenken. Vor Ihnen verneigen wir uns in Demut. Ihnen gilt unser ganzer Dank. Gegen den antisemitischen Hass und die rassistische Hetze des Dritten Reiches setzen wir die Freundschaft der Völker. Freundschaft mit den Völkern der Sowjetunion, mit Franzosen und Briten und der amerikanischen Bevölkerung. Wir brauchen die deutsch-amerikanische Freundschaft ganz dringend. Und wir begrüßen die Förderung eines engen gesellschaftlichen Austauschs mit wachsenden gegenseitigen Kontakten. Freundschaft miteinander aber heißt, dass wir das bisherige Verhältnis einer extremen Unterwürfigkeit der Bundesrepublik gegenüber einer US-amerikanischen Außenpolitik aufkündigen, die geprägt ist von Krieg, Völkerrechtsbrüchen und Putschunterstützung. Und deshalb sagen wir auch, nach 78 Jahren ist es an der Zeit, dass die US-Soldaten nach Hause gehen. Alle anderen Alliierten haben längst Deutschland verlassen. Die US-Militärstützpunkte verhalten sich wie extraterritoriale Gebiete, auf denen das Grundgesetz ausgehebelt ist. Von deutschem Boden werden völkerrechtswidrige US-Kriege, Drohnenmorde und Folterflüge mit durchgeführt. Und als gelte immer noch das Besatzungsstatut, laden die USA zu den Rammstein-Formaten in Deutschland ein. Es gab mal eine Zeit, da hatte der Deutsche Bundestag mehr Mut. Ich erinnere an den Beschluss zum Abzug der US-Atomwaffen 2010, auch auf Initiative des FDP-Außenministers Westerwelle. Dieser Beschluss ist bis heute nicht umgesetzt worden. Diese Zeiten sind lange vorbei, aber wir bleiben dabei. Die US-Atomwaffen müssen weg. Jetzt lässt sich die Bundesregierung von den USA mit der Lieferung der Leopard-Panzer mitten ins Feuer schicken. Jetzt weigert sich die Bundesregierung, eine internationale Untersuchungskommission zur Aufklärung der Terroranschläge auf die Nord Stream-Pipelines mit zu unterstützen. Ich sage, Terroranschläge unter Freunden, das geht gar nicht. Die US-Administration vermittelt den Eindruck, sie wolle gar keine Alliierten, sondern schlicht Vasallentreue. Das aber wollen sich immer weniger Staaten weltweit gefallen lassen, und das ist auch gut so. Grundlage für eine gemeinsame Freundschaft sollten die Achtung von Menschen- und Völkerrecht sein. Warum aber, fragt man sich, weigert sich die Bundesregierung auch nach 20 Jahren, den US-Angriffskrieg auf den Irak als Völkerrechtsbruch zu verurteilen? Warum setzen Sie sich nicht für die Freilassung des Journalisten Julian Assange ein, dem wegen der Veröffentlichung von US-Kriegsverbrechen 175 Jahre Haft in den USA drohen, Frau Baerbock? Warum haben Sie dem Dissidenten Edward Snowden kein Asyl angeboten? Der preußische Offizier Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben, der zu Unrecht in Deutschland fast vergessen ist, half als Generalinspekteur der Streitkräfte der US-amerikanischen Unabhängigkeitsbewegung, die Unabhängigkeit der USA mitzuerkämpfen. Sein Beispiel sollte uns Mahnung sein, wie wichtig der Kampf um die demokratische Souveränität als Voraussetzung für Völkerfreundschaft, für Frieden, für Freiheit und Gerechtigkeit ist. Vielen Dank. Frau Präsidentin, liebe Kollegen.
Well, double up. Go ahead, sir.
I like how you always have it go first.
Yes, man. Go ahead.
America. Hopefully you enjoyed that beautiful German language. Interesting, right? I would start to say I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware by the Bretton Woods Agreement and how after World War II, we decided to make the US dollar the dominance and the
The reserve currency.
the reserve currency
Yeah.
for the world, right?
Yeah.
What that did after the war was that a lot of countries were basically out of stock. We had money, everybody's broke. There's time to rebuild a bunch of countries across Europe. A lot of Africans were pulled out of their African nations to fight that war. Nobody talks about that. I think this is also connected to that previous video. They do not get any credit. As a matter of fact, the African armies were the one that led the victory into France, but they pulled them back to now take the white Americans, to go and now take the front lead at the last minute to now show victory. Nobody talks about that. That's a very interesting topic that could be discussed in other shows. But to go back to the purpose of this conversation, is that World War II, let's just remember, was a bank war. Even though she mentioned here that they're very grateful for the French and the Americans and the Russians for helping them fight that war, because of course we don't want racial issues, because racial issues is a big thing. They changed the storyline to make it more about, it's race, a bunch of Jews were being killed, 400,000 Americans died, and so on and so forth. But the reality was that the truth behind that war, that started that war, was that Hitler was tired of the way the banking systems was run in his country and taking over the country. And he believed that the Jews were the one doing it. That is why he went after them and started killing them. That is just the truth. It's very important to always speak the truth. Let's not just make it about the killing of a bunch of Jews. The truth was bankers was taking over Germany, and they went to war against a certain group of people that they believed were in charge of the old banking situation, right? So Germany is slowly waking up to the reality that, yes, they want their own sovereign power. This war has long been over. We've been using your currency, kind of like the Africans are saying as well, is that, wait a second, for your own protectionism, you went and blew up our own pipeline that we have in agreement with Russia. We have no issue with Russia.
Yeah,
They had no issue with Russia.
they didn't.
But just like America always does, we call it democracy, we go and blow up our friends' pipeline because we want them to trade their gas and their oil through us, not through Russia, because we have issues with Russia.
Yeah.
Why? Come on, can we be friends? Can we all just be sovereign and find a peaceful way to change value? It all goes back to this whole changing value situation.
Germany no longer wants to be the bootlicker. Okay. I think this situation with Ukraine has definitely exposed a lot in the relationship that these European countries had with America, or at least how America viewed this relationship with the Europeans. But I think it became very clear, especially at the point in time when that Nord Stream pipeline was blown up. In fact, even before that, at the very beginning, when you look at the map, right? If you have two brain cells to rub together, you come to realize that why is Germany in the European Union to even begin with?
We did a video about this a long time ago. That
Right.
that geographical location is critical.
Yes, it does not make sense that Germany is in the European Union. It does not make sense even that they are in this deep alliance with the United States. I think that their relationships with Russia should be something that is more of a something that is not a U.S. business. But at this point in time, right, what it is what it is. When you look at the way that the U.S. has managed their relationships with the European countries across the past couple months, especially. I mean, it's been spanning over years, but especially over the past couple months, I think it is just kind of exposed that if these European nations do not stand up, wake up, and be able to make their own strong choices for their future, for the future of their country and the stability of their own economy, they are going to be wrecked. You know, when we talk about this awakening that is happening right now, right? People waking up to the different realities that are exposing themselves or coming to the top now, whether it's due to social media bringing about this change. I think that it is a very interesting time. There's definitely going to be more separation. All right, I think globalization is actually going to take a bit of a dip.
Yeah, we've talked about that as well.
Right, which is very much contradictory to the stuff that the IMF and the World Economic Forum are pushing for, where they have this globalized environment where it is everyone under one government.
This goes back to the centralized banks,
Right.
bro.
Exactly. So I don't see how these people plan to put Germany, Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa in this their banking system, because it does not seem to me that Russia is trying to be drinking tea with Charles Schwab.
And it's a couple of African countries that have applied to be part of the BRICS.
Yes.
But the sad part is that they are applying to go and join the yuan as the global reserve,
Yeah.
which at the beginning of this show, we just answered that question.
Yeah.
It's still also going to be problematic. That's not the answer.
It's okay. You know, I mean, I think it's people who came up on a very medieval mindset. They think that is the only thing that works. So they're doing what they know best. I mean, look at all of them. It's old people. You cannot really expect any of them to understand Bitcoin.
Nope.
But the reality of the matter is this is our generation. We are the digital generation. We grew up on the internet. Bitcoin is the way that we're likely going to be exchanging. What am I saying likely? Bitcoin makes sense. It's the way that we're going to be exchanging value. And so I like to call this the Great Rising, as much as they want to call it the New World Order. Well, I guess part of that New World Order is a great awakening of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts before we close this one out, Double O.
I think the world is slowly awakening to what has been going on and what's wrong with the world. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of pointing back to central bankers and bankers.
Yeah.
It's caused several wars, and we're at the edge of a World War III, all because of money.
Yeah.
And we keep saying, let's solve the money problem. All you crypto people out there, you can come and do your blockchain stuff later. But once we solve the money problem, then you can play around. But let's solve the money problem, and I think we can start with Bitcoin on that one.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us in the comments. Let us know in the comments if this video provided any value to you. Let us know your take on this situation. Do you think that there is this great awakening, or are we dreaming? Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends. Follow us on Twitter, STAKK. Follow us on Facebook as well, STAKK. Banned on Instagram, because Instagram does not want people to wake up. And of course, on Spotify, we are STAKK. We really appreciate all the support and all the love you guys show us. Until next time, present out.